I'd like to introduce an improvement to Nexus Dashboards 4.1's L3Out creation workflow. There is often a need to connect to an external, non-VXLAN fabric, extend VRFs, and advertise internal routing. Prior to Nexus Dashboard 4.1, the L3Out workflow was complex. There were multiple screens and a non-simplified workflow. There were also limitations that prevented clean, automated integrations with non-VXLAN fabrics. In Nexus Dashboard 4.1, the L3Out workflow has been enhanced, streamlining the workflow and minimizing your touch points. Let's see how it now looks. So let's go through that new workflow. So let's first look at the connections that we have between the SJC and the ISN1, where we're going to establish that L3Out. We're going to leverage this connection here. So this is a connection that we've already physically have made. So we'll go into the fabrics. We'll start this workflow from SJC, which we can also start from ISN1. You'll notice that the overview page is new, as well as some of these tabs here. We've got this consistent new look for all of our fabrics. So we'll go under connectivity, and you may know from previous releases that before, when we would configure an L3Out, we would start from the VRF layer, but now it's under connectivity and under routing policies. So you can see we have some new items here under routing policies. We're going to configure that L3Out, call it ISN1, and we're going to select the ISN1 fabric. And we'll select the Eng VRF. Now you can configure this for both Fabric 1 and Fabric 2, meaning that I will recalculate and deploy and configure this on both the fabrics, or you can only do on Fabric 1 if you wanted to manually do the configuration on Fabric 2. I trust Nexus Dashboard, so I'd like Nexus Dashboard to do the configuration for me. We have the ability to select IPv6 now, or IPv4 and IPv6. I'm going to select IPv4. We also have added the option of doing static routes and not just BGP. I'm going to leverage BGP. Additionally, we used to only have sub interfaces, but now we have the option of configuring a routed, a sub interface, or an SVI. I'm going to configure a routed interface. There's this attach option, which if it's left by default in attached, then this is going to figure out the configuration, and when I recalculate and deploy, it will deploy that configuration. If I do detached, then it will do all the configuration or show you all the configuration, but you have the ability to make changes to any of these options as well as the options on the next page, rather than having to go back in, detach it, and then delete the config if you wanted to delete it or make changes to it. So I already know what configuration I want to apply. I'm going to have it as attached. And you'll see here that it's already detected a link that matches or that can be used for that routed interface link. If I had already configured if I had already done another link that would be able to be used for a sub interface, then that would be detected here, or an SVI. So I'm going to use this link, Ethernet 110 on SJC BGW1 and Ethernet 131 on ISN1. Now, here, this is a lot of additional advanced configuration that we can do, but none of it is, none of the modification is required. So we can leave everything as is. We do have the ability to create route maps that enhance our one fabric story. We're able to do modifications to very specific advertisements of routes, as well as peer AS check and log neighbor changes. So I'm not going to make any modifications here. I'm going to keep it as is. And here's a review of that configuration. And I'm going to go ahead and save. So now I'll recalculate and deploy. So it's generated all this configuration, and all of this wound up being applied to SJC BGW1 for that L3 out. I'm going to deploy that. I'm not going to wait for it, as it'll still be getting deployed. I'm going to go to the ISN1 fabric, and you'll see this, it was successful being deployed on SJC, and I'm going to recalculate and deploy here. So we have the config that was generated for this fabric as well, because we selected both fabrics. And I'll deploy that. So you'll see the workflow is much more straightforward. We have additional options and enhancements for doing additional configuration, and the workflow is a bit more streamlined. So one final thing I'd like to share is a new routes feature. So we'll go back to the SJC fabric, go under connectivity, and then we'll look at routes. So we have this new feature where we're able to detect new or modified routes, or show routes that were deleted. So because we did that configuration between SJC BGW1 and ISN1, we have added that additional route for that ENG VRF that we are extending out to through that L3 out.